Obviously very pleased with the victory on Saturday. The Missouri Valley Conference, as we know, is a tremendous league and great parity in our league, and to be able to come out with a pretty solid 31-10 victory, something that we're real happy with how hard the kids played. Obviously we have to continue to get better in certain areas, and we'll emphasize that when we see the guys today. I think the only player that we lost from the game would be Eric Perkins. Perk has a thumb injury. I'm not sure how long it will be right now, but I don't think it's likely that Perk would play this Saturday. Everybody else should be available that was available this past Saturday. So we'll get together with the guys. We'll flip the page quickly, which you have to do in this league, and prepare for a Missouri State team that looked really good on film against Indiana State, and I think they were the only road team that won in the league last week, which is a huge thing if you can win on the road. And so I think we'll have a really good crowd in Springfield. They're 3-1, and coming off a road league win is big, and we'll have to have a great week of preparation. So open up for questions.
Update on Bruce.
Find out today. We anticipate him practicing this week.
Who would take over at punt return if Burt can't play?
Shep will be the returner.
What do you think about Garrett Malmstrom coming in? It looked like he really performed pretty well in his first game.
For the first game, Garrett did a really nice job. We graded him out pretty well. There was a couple of blocks that maybe a little bit, guy with more experience, somebody maybe would have seen a little bit different stunt, but he had his face on people. He moved the pile. I know that first performance for Garrett will pay big dividends for him moving forward, because we're not going to have Brock back for a while. So Garrett he's on the trip. He's in the two deep, and he'll continue to play, and I think he'll continue to get better. I really was pleased with what he did.
Is that Dominic Davis position something you guys are still evaluating, or will Robbie go down when Eric comes back?
Well, we'll find out. Depends on when, what Eric's health availability is. We need to have two guys down there in learning the position, and we just haven't had the ability with Eric hurt. So if and when Eric comes back, and we'll find out this week, it just gives us another option by having the ability to put Robbie down there and or put Dom down there. Obviously, when we lost Nick, we had to do some things to slide Pierre back in. And so hopefully if Eric can come back, it gives us some more versatility by having two guys that can play that nickel spot.
What are you seeing on film that's different from Missouri State last year to this year?
Well, it's the second year in the system for starters, and they're playing a bunch of young guys, and it's most of the same young guys that played last year. And I really think you can take a lot of last year's film and throw it out, because all these guys are obviously a year more experienced. They're stronger. They're faster. They're more athletic. I think from a skill standpoint, offensively, they have a number of guys that can beat you. And they have really good team speed on offense as well. And then on defense, they're flying around. They're hitting their fits. 31, the linebacker Cole, I think, is one of the top players in the league at any position. I'm so impressed with him, and he's been doing it for a long time. So they have and still a lot of young guys. There's not many seniors on this team, so I know Steck's probably pleased with where they're at as far as the development, but he's going to have all these guys back again.
Lambert kind of tore up that Indiana State secondary. That confidence showed through on film as well.
You bet. He looked really good throwing the football, and they did a nice job making some catches, and I thought they did a really good job of some misdirection things that had some kids wide open, and then once you get it to some of their skill kids in space, they're going to make you miss. And so it's one area that we have to be better at is open field tackling, and if we're not, then we're going to be in for a long day. So something we'll emphasize early in the week is some open field tackling, because we have to improve on it.
You feel like your run defense is playing so well that it's stressing the pass defense because teams are just throwing the ball?
Well, there's something to say about that, but also with the formations we're seeing, a la Eastern Washington and even Illinois State, there's no tight ends in the game and stuff, and so you should be able to stop the run if you put enough guys in there. I look at Iowa. who's a little bit more multiple, and we did a nice job being able to defend both because Iowa was going to try to run the football. Some of the multiple sets that we're seeing with 4 and 5 wide receivers probably stresses the secondary a little bit more. And that's why we have to continue to play some of our nickel stuff and get better at our nickel stuff. This was really our first true week all season at nickel, and I'm hoping the game experience with Pierre playing a different position, with Dom playing basically for the first time this year. Now Dom will be into his second game, as well as Robbie and Trey getting back to their normal position in nickel. I'm hoping there'll be some improvement, and I think there will be.
You've been to Plaster Field many a time. Why is it such a difficult place to play? Is it creating your own kind of energy down there?
I don't think we're going to have to create our own energy this week, Dom. If you go back and look early in the season of the last few years, they have had good crowds, and there's plenty of people in that community. So I think they'll get a good crowd down there. I really do, especially coming off of a win. They're 3-1, and they had a big win on the road, and I think it's supposed to be a really nice day. I envision us having a really good crowd. We're going to work the noise this week for sure, because I've been down there at times, and that place can get loud.
A couple days removed, how would you rate Matt Plank's play?
He did well. I think he played maybe 30 to 35 snaps, and hit his run fits really well. Did a nice job in pass coverage on cover 2 and stuff. Once again, their game plan with as many 4 and 5 wide sets dictated us playing more nickel. This week, who knows if they're going to be in a tight end, 2 tight end sets, whatever it may be. Then Matt will be in there a little bit more. But I thought Matt played well.
Have you seen improvement from Jackson Coons from the beginning of the year till now? Are you still evaluating that, or do you feel comfortable with Jackson?
Well, we definitely feel comfortable, and yes, we have seen improvement. And I think I know he had one punt that he wouldn't have been happy with, and we thought we needed to be better on. But if you look at the hang time that Jackson's getting, there have not even been attempted returns, and that's something that he's got a real skill at of hanging the ball up there. And if we can hang that thing up there anywhere between 35 and 42 yards with no return, then I like the way we're flipping the field in some net punt. And so, he's continuing to improve, but in the same respect, I have seen just on a week-to-week basis, and Coach P runs our punt team, some really good improvement. There was one poor snap that I thought he kind of hurried, and he maybe didn't need to hurry, but, just from a punter standpoint, you get one that's a little bit side and low, you want to try to get rid of the thing.
What's Darius Shepard done for your team?
Everything. He's such a versatile guy because we can play him outside, we can play him in the slot as a true receiver, we can run him on the jet sweep, which we were able to do because we really didn't have Bruce last week. He can return punts. He's one of those guys that when the ball's in his area, he's going to find a way to get it. He blocks well on the perimeter. We're going to ask him to return punts this week. He's only a redshirt sophomore. Shep last year was banged up most of the year, and he's healthy. And when he's healthy, and you can ask our guys on defense, it's great when we have to go against him as far as when we have our ones against our ones, because he gives such an unbelievable picture, and it's hard for him to cover, whether it's Pierre or Robbie or Trey or whoever else. He's a really explosive electric player for us.
Are you going to continue recruiting Missouri in that area?
Absolutely. You bet.
What's high school ball like down there in Darius' area?
Well, where he's from Blue Springs, which is one of the elite schools in all of Missouri, and has won a number of state championships with Kelly Donahoe, who's a phenomenal coach. I think that it's the same conference that Jabril Cox came from, same conference that King Frazier came from, and Adam Coalfield. So there's some tremendous football in that side of the state. And you'd ask Brian Shepard, and he'd say KCK's better, but the guys on the other side would say Casey Moe's better. But it's an area that we're going to definitely continue to hammer on.
Coach, you described Caleb Butler's arrival here. I remember last year you saying just let him go and play, but how has he elevated his game since arriving on campus?
Well, he's learned our system, and last year we pressed him into duty when we had a couple of injuries. He's another guy that's pretty versatile because we play him at the 3 technique. and rotate him in with the defensive tackles on any given down. More specifically, we like to use him on third downs and stuff because he's only 245 pounds or 240 pounds maybe, but he's so strong. He's got great heavy hands, which it makes it difficult for people to move him out of there. And he understands his role, whether it's playing 12 snaps or 28 snaps. He has one of those motors that's just nonstop to get to the football, to wreak havoc on the quarterback. And it takes a lot to be able to understand, all of our pass rush stunts, not only from the defensive end spot, but from really either defensive tackle spot. So he really has given us an awful lot, whether it's first down to third down.
Did he go to your camp? Was he at your camp way back when, or did he just show up on campus?
No, he came to camp. He was a great wrestler in high school, and so he was one of those guys that walked on to the program that earned a scholarship.
Greg's got at least a partial sack in each of the first 4 games. When you look on film, how much are teams actually game planning for him specifically?
I think quite a bit, and I think Greg would tell you he probably should have had 2 more on Saturday. Just maybe he got the edge and the quarterback stepped up, or maybe he could have dipped his shoulder a little bit. But Greg is he wreaks so much havoc, I think, for an offense because you have to know where he's at, and with the ability of somebody like Steidel or Caleb or Nate that can play tackle, or Grant that can do some things to get upfield as well, allows us to bring him back underneath on some stunts to add to his repertoire. But Greg's had a really good year for us, and for us to be successful, our front 4 has to play like they did the second half on Saturday, because we didn't pressure very much, and our front 4, I thought, did a great job of applying pressure as well as stopping the run.
Was that the biggest thing that you saw from first half defense to second half defense was the pressure?
Absolutely. And they probably, offensive line got a little bit tired because they had to throw it because they were down. They didn't really have that option to run the football. So when you're having to pass protect as much as they had to pass protect the second half, I know it can wear on you. And they weren't wearing on us by pounding it, running the football, so our guys could lay their ears back. And I think that was a big difference of even when we didn't get sacks, we hit the quarterback an awful lot.
You can show the 55-0 film to your guys last year?
No, there's some plays just because of how they line up to specific formations that we may sprinkle in there. But no, it's not really any point. You don't really show much of last year, You show Murray State, which they played really well. Once again, it was on the road and they won. Indiana State, they played really well on the road and they won. The Kansas State one, we wish we could watch a little bit more of it, but I think they cut that game out at halftime. But there was some good things that we saw early on in that game that we wish we could have seen more.
On Saturday, you talked about the success of the explosive plays. Do you anticipate drawing up more of those this week?
Well, a lot of those just kind of happened just based on I thought Illinois State did a nice job defending the run, and their safeties were so tucked in there tight, and their safeties made a lot of plays at 5, 6, 7 yards. Well, then you're kind of hanging out your corners and seeing if they can hold up in man coverage, and we were able to beat them on some shots, and Easton was able to recognize the picture pre-snap to say, okay, I know I have one-on-one with RJ, or I know I have one-on-one with Shep or Gents or anybody, and that's the thing that even between Ilias and Gents, those guys really give us some downfield threats from the tight end position. And so we're kind of taking what the defense will give us, at least in the first half, where the second half, I think that's where I think you're seeing the maturity and the growth of Easton to say, well, I could check us into this, take a shot pass, but we're up 28-10 or 31-10, and we're milking this clock, and we're getting 5 and 6 yards. Let's keep pounding the football and get the clock going, where maybe an inexperienced kid would say, hey, let's take a shot. Oh, shoot, now we're 2nd and 10. We're behind the sticks. He wasn't doing that. He said, no, let's stay with the game plan and let's milk this clock.
Go ahead.
What has Jensen done to see the field since he's gotten here?
Well, he had to be better at the point of attack blocking, so that we didn't have to put him in there and say, oh, shoot, we must be running some kind of vertical route or even a naked stuff. He's done really well at the point of attack blocking. So it enables us, I think, if you looked at him and said, boy, he is a 50-50 guy. And he really has soft hands. He's a big target. He understands how to get open and understands how to use his body.
Have you coached a lot of players that can do as many things as Chase Morlock can do?
No, Chase is pretty unique as far as his ability to run, block, catch, tackle. I mean, he's on the punt team, he's on the kickoff team, he's on the punt defense team, he's on the kick return, he's on everything. And we're trying to find more ways to get him some snaps on offense, even though it looks like he's out there all the time. Because if you ask Chase, he'd say, I can play another 20 snaps more. And he may have to if we don't have Bruce this week. We'll find out as the week goes on if we'll have Bruce. But and then losing Brock Robbins, that added some snaps. That's why Malmstrom was so big to us, to get Malmstrom in there to take a few snaps off of Chase. Not that Chase doesn't need this, can't handle the snaps, but I'd rather have Malmstrom go in and bang that 260-pound defensive end that's crashing down to try to spill our power than to have Chase do it all the time.
It's important to every defense, but how important has stopping the run been for Missouri State specifically in their success?
Well, they're playing pretty good on defense in general. I think they lead the league in total defense. And, if you can make a team one-dimensional, and they've made a few teams one-dimensional, then same thing we did on Saturday. You can lay your ears back and you can go get the quarterback. And that second half of what they did against Indiana State was so impressive because they created turnovers, and they've created a bunch of turnovers, and they turned those into scores, and then they got up. And then they were able to, take Indiana State out of running the football. And that's where Indiana State had such great success, was running the football against Illinois State. But when you're down 2 scores in the second half, it's tougher to do that.
I think with all the bye weeks gone, Chris, and now you got 3 of your next 4 on the road and you're playing every week, do you start changing your regiment now in terms of backing some reps off guys, or is it too early in the year for that?
We talked about that at length on Sunday. We will probably cut down maybe 5 to 8 minutes out of practice on Tuesday and Wednesday, maybe a week earlier than we have, maybe even 2 weeks earlier than we have in previous years, simply because if you look at our IR board, we have so many guys on that may be 3 weeks to 5 weeks, whether, it could be a Polanski or Mercadal or Brock Robbins or something like that. We've lost some of our depth there, especially on special teams. And so, now we're finding out who those 60 are to take on the road and who can be on that kickoff team or who can be on that punt defense, whatever it may be. But we have to protect the guys. I'll give you an example. Pierre. We have to protect Pierre. Pierre's a difference maker, dynamite football player. And for him to see the same picture and have to take on a power or take on a guard, and whether it's against our offense or against the scout team offense, I know Pierre's going to do that on Saturday. We've got to be careful that we don't, wear that kid out. And he's just an example. There's a bunch of those guys that who they are because they've played a bunch of games here.
He'll have a long-term injury situation?
No, he has a PCL in his knee that we think will be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So I think now that was during the open week, so now we're really on middle of week 2, maybe into week 3. And he would be a guy that would probably help us right now in special teams. He's not going to play on defense for us, but maybe it would allow us to get Plank off the field rather than play him on 3 special teams. Right now MJ's playing on a couple special teams. So that's football. That's everybody's going through it. There's a bunch of injuries, and that's nobody's going to make any excuses. I don't think anybody's going to feel sorry for us.